Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and professional witch, and today I'm talking about Achilles. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. If you love the podcast and want to support it further, you can join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family. Some of the benefits include getting an individual card pulled for you once a month live on the podcast after the New Moon Collective readings. And if you'd like to support the podcast even further, you can get a one-time individual 5-card reading in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Witch Bitch level on the Patreon. I recently recorded an hour-long video episode for the new moon that we welcomed in on October 21st, 2025. If you missed the live, you can check out the New Moon Collective Tarot reading recording. If you want to get an idea of what we are looking forward to in the next 2 weeks before the full moon. As a bonus for the Queer Joy Summit that just wrapped up last week, I created a Queer Coven Spooky Tarot spread, and I wanted to give you all a chance to grab it even if you weren't part of the summit. So it is a Halloween and queer themed 6-card spread, and I'll have the link in the show notes to grab that now. I recently was on Kayla Moore's Connected Pleasure podcast. You can check out my episode of Kayla's podcast where we talked all about living by the body, dreaming of land, and weaving the future. And I have the link to Kayla's offer page if you're interested in working with them one-on-one or listening to more of their podcast as well. I am looking for more guests to be on my podcast, so if you're interested or know someone that might be a good fit, please fill out my form to be a guest on the podcast. If you want to work with me more directly and maybe you don't live local to me, I am offering and kicking off a Tarot for Transformation live course, which will look like deep dive workshops in 2026. We'll be deep diving the first 12 of the major arcana cards all together as we embody archetypes and learn how to transform ourselves through the tarot. And we'll be doing a card a month, so we will kick off with the Fool in January 2026. I will have probably 2 to 3 hour long workshops every month. You can sign up for all 12 in advance and get a slight discount, or you can just choose to join which ones you're available for or make sense to you. Or that you can, financially invest in for certain cards. What am I trying to say? If you sign up for them and pay, you'll be able to get the recording as well, just in case you aren't able to attend live. But I'm so excited to do those. I'll be dressing up like the cards. We'll be talking about what the cards are all about, how to embody that archetype as we are in a certain month of the year, how to have our goals and our lifestyle change for each of the cards each month. So I'm very excited about that. And that'll be a fun way to deep dive into the tarot starting next year. If you don't already know, I am a sex and relationships therapist and coach, seeing clients virtually all over from my home office. I work with individuals and relational clients, so any types of relationships. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. So if you'd like to work with someone that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. If you've heard me talk about creating your own tarot cards and you're like, Camille, I do not have the art skills, no worries. You can get my workshop where I teach you how to create your own tarot cards using collage. So very little art skills are necessary. Mostly we are cutting and pasting and just using our creativity to think about what cards or what images are going to work for cards. So you can get my full workshop, which has an hour-long recording with my step-by-step method, examples of 30 of at least of the tarot cards I've created. You'll get journaling questions to help you think about or brainstorm how you want to approach your creation of the cards, and a PDF to walk you all through it for just $33. The link will be in the show notes to purchase that now. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you, my lovely listeners, at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date info on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. If you're local and want to meet me in person, you can check out my Let's Talk Tarot meetup group. Right now, the upcoming events are going to be the full moon circles that I am holding with my colleague Izzy. So we'll be holding full moon women's circles for the rest of 2025. You can join us under the glow of the full moon for an evening of connection, reflection, and ritual, and tarot as well. Generally, I do a collective tarot reading within our workshops, and then we also all pull tarot cards and kind of share and talk about it with each other to see what kind of themes are coming up for everyone. We will meet at Thresholds Collective in Tacoma the first Sunday of the month to welcome in the full moon together. So our upcoming dates are November 2nd and December 7th, and tickets are already available for both of those. So go ahead and grab those and get it on your calendar so we can see you then. You can find the links for any of these offers I talked about today in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right, so welcome to season 16. Where I'm talking all about queer deities. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. I've talked tarot basics. I've gone through every card in the tarot deck, so all 78 cards, doing one per episode. I've talked tarot and pop culture, which is super fun. You can check that out. There's especially a lot of witchy or Halloween movies, videos, TV references in there, so that's very fun. I watched The Love Witch recently, and I did do an episode on tarot in The Love Witch. If you're interested in that. I've done a whole season on tarot spreads, tarot and witchcraft, tarot and plant allies, tarot and animals, and frequently asked questions, and my recent season was about tarot and crystals. So like I said, we are in season 16 now, where I'm talking all about queer deities and tarot, and today I'm talking about Achilles. So I will go through the mythology, the queerness, the tarot affiliation, and then we will dive in and see what the cards have to say today. I'll pull a card and see what message Achilles has to share with us. So we're going to kick it off with pride.com, talking about Achilles. So you may know the Achilles heel and perhaps the story of Achilles, but the Greek hero Achilles was invulnerable except for his famous weak heel. He was a male shield bearer that broke through the warrior's romantic defenses. So this is sort of the queerness side. Let me get back into that, and let's go to just his own history first. So I'm reading from the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets by Barbara G. Walker. All right, so Achilles is the Homeric hero of the Iliad, the greatest of the Greek warriors at the siege of Troy. So Achilles was the son of a sea goddess here called Thetis, she who disposes. Most of his body was invulnerable because his mother dipped him in the holy River Styx when he was an infant, but the spot on his heel where her fingers held him was not exposed to the magical waters. Therefore, he could be and was killed by an arrow in his heel, as was the Hindu Krishna. Hence, any area of vulnerability in an otherwise strong structure or person is known as an Achilles heel. Like Heracles, Achilles lived for some time in female disguise, recalling the priesthoods of Homeric and pre-Homeric times who wore women's clothing to attain the powers of divinity. So, very interesting there. I think I've referenced it before, but Madeline Miller's fictional book, The Song of Achilles, which goes into, obviously all about Achilles and his relationship with Patroclus, and goes into this whole, the whole queer story, basically, because they grow up as children together into young men, and it follows their relationship as it grows and develops in a natural way. Of course, it does not have a happy ending, which is the case for many Greek myths, and so that also continues to be true for a lot of these queer deities. But let's see here. Yeah, so Achilles, again, what we know of him and from this story. So if we get into the Song of Achilles book to talk about some of the queerness. So again, it's a retelling of the Greek myth of the hero Achilles and his loyal companion Patroclus. It's from the Iliad, so if you know it from there. So it also kind of goes into the whole story. And the story is actually told from Patroclus's perspective, starting with when he's very young, and also like his backstory until he meets Achilles, and how they grow up together. What else? Of course, like this is a fictional tale. So Madeline Miller, she wrote another story, Circe, about the goddess Circe. And I really enjoyed that one. So I read this book as well in a book club. It's pretty good. It's like it's a queer retelling of the story. They don't really end happy, but we get a lot of the relationship there. Let's see. And it tells, sort of a more relatable version of who Achilles is versus the kind of myth, which is that he's conceited, he's proud, most people don't really like him. But in this book, in this retelling, since we see it from Patroclus's eyes, we see a character that has more depth in that way. And again, the original myth doesn't explicitly depict a romantic relationship between them, but many people see the subtext and infer the bond to be deeper than just friends. And in the book itself, the Song of Achilles, it is a romantic relationship. And the relationship grows from when they're friends to young adults, and later on as well, and how they continually choose each other. Let's see here. Okay, that's probably all I'm going to go into there. So again, from pride.com, talking about queer gods, they talk about, again, so the Greek hero Achilles is invulnerable except for his famous weak heel, but Patroclus is the shield bearer that broke through his romantic defenses. And again, Homer does not explicitly state a gay relationship between Achilles and Patroclus. A lot of people, scholars, read a romantic connection between the two, because Patroclus is really the only one that kind of draws out this compassionate side of this warrior. Because basically Achilles was raised to know that he was a warrior that was basically invincible, and that can really go to someone's head. And spoiler alerts, Patroclus dies at the hands of Trojan prince Hector, and it sent Achilles into a rage. He then kills Hector and literally drags his body around Troy. And that is also Achilles' own downfall. So there's also myths that disclose Achilles was struck by the beauty of Peleus, a Trojan prince, that was in that story as well. Okay, so I read from theburr.com talking about the Song of Achilles. On AndreaMarina.com, a personal blog, they go ahead and talk about, Achilles and Patroclus, queer love in ancient mythology. They were warriors, and Patroclus, he is sent by his father, King Mightiest, to live with Achilles' family, after Patroclus, accidentally kills another child and is sort of punished by sending him away, sort of, or to get him out of the situation. And that's how Patroclus and Achilles get to know each other. They again are close friends, and it's Achilles is even a mentor to Patroclus, even though they're kind of close in age. What else here? And Patroclus becomes Achilles' loyal lieutenant. And the Achilles, who again was kind of known as being hot-headed and proud, was much more like caring and empathetic toward Patroclus. And they are example of the like archetype of like a brother in arms who's endured across the ages, regardless of the possibility that their relationship was even deeper. And again, their own tragedies are like tied up in each other. So Patroclus dies, and Achilles really then like solidifies his own feeling, like recognizes his own feelings towards Patroclus then. And in the Iliad, so Patroclus actually like puts on Achilles' armor, and goes out to sort of distract, and so that Achilles could go in for this like wartime strategy. And that is when Patroclus gets injured and then dies, and then that really like seals his own doom, because Hector, the Trojan commander, spears Patroclus thinking that it's Achilles, and they do this like terrible, like brutally killed, like the body, they have to go out and like get it, and Achilles is horrified. Oh, there's a quote here from the epic. So it says, "A dark cloud of grief fell upon Achilles as he listened. He filled both hands with dust from off the ground and poured it over his head, disfiguring his comely face and letting the refuse settle over his shirt, so fair and new. He flung himself down and tore his hair with his hands. The bondswomen whom Achilles and Patroclus had taken captive screamed aloud for grief, beating their breasts and with their limbs failing them for sorrow. Antilochus bent over him wildly weeping and holding both his hands as he lay groaning, for he feared that he might plunge a knife into his own throat." And later Achilles goes on to like tell his mother, the sea goddess, because Achilles is like born from a mortal and a sea goddess. So he goes on to tell his mom, like, "Patroclus has fallen, he whom I valued more than all others and loved as dearly as my own life. I have lost him. Nay, I will not live nor go about among mankind unless Hector fall by my spear, and thus pay me for having slain Patroclus, son of Menocidas." But then, so there's like, it's a whole part of the story, but like his mom tells him like, they purposely did this, like killed Patroclus to sort of get Achilles into this position so that he was forced to act, in revenge to go and kill. But it does mean that Achilles also like later dies, because he has so much like rage in him. He wants to avenge his lover and goes into like battle, and then like does get shot in the Achilles heel, which is how that is. And again, like from the language, right, from reading from the epic, it's like very, like to me, I would be like, yeah, this is not just like, oh yeah, like your fellow warrior that you cared about so much. This like seems a lot more like entwined relationships there. All right, so let's talk about tarot affiliation. So because Achilles kind of rides in the wartime, like in these final scenes where Patroclus dresses up in Achilles' armor and goes around, like they are in chariots a lot of the time. So I think the Chariot card would be a common one, especially just of how Achilles is depicted as like, so, I don't know, like headstrong, I would say, like so sort of like one track minded and like going forward no matter what, right? That again, even his own mother is like, this is going to be your downfall. Like you don't, like this is exactly what the other side wanted to have happened, is that to force you into acting, to take revenge. but he continues to do it anyway, and that is his own downfall. So we have that. I was looking up to see kind of if there were any other cards that people had talked about. So strength was another one on tarotcardmeanings.net, talking about the tarot card of strength. There's a reference to Achilles. They say an expressive example of this, of sort of the inner strength that is depicted with the strength card, is Achilles, the hero of great strength, who just had one weakness, his own heel. So, right, his mother again dips him in to the water, and that is supposed to be the only spot that she was like holding him. And this tiny weakness killed him. So every strength has one, right? And there's, they actually depict a Roman statue of Achilles with the depiction of when his like ankle gets struck by an arrow. I'll link the website if you want to see the statue there. I like that they talk about this here. So again, traditionally on a strength card, they depict a lion. So it says the lion has mighty muscles by which to close its jaws on a prey, but not nearly as much strength to open them. And evolution slipped on that detail. Real strength is to make use of such a weakness. That way, the little strength is needed, and still not even the strongest in the world can resist. And so again, like this is kind of what happens in the Achilles tale or in the Iliad, is that they create the situation in which Achilles cannot resist, even though he is this like nearly infallible warrior. He can't resist going in to avenge the person he cared about. So we have the strength card for that. Another one I saw is that there's actually a tarot card deck. It's the Fairy Lute tarot cards that are based on the Song of Achilles book by Madeline Miller. So in this deck, they actually depict Achilles as the 9 of stars, which to me would be like the 9 of Pentacles. And then they depict Patroclus as the 10 of Pentacles. And in the imagery, if you just saw one card, you wouldn't be able to tell, but it's like if you put the two cards together, they're actually like reaching out to each other and dressed very similarly. And so I thought that was very interesting. So if we think about the 9 of Pentacles, so it's generally, right, Pentacles would be like material goods, financial, wealth or independence, self-reliance, enjoying the fruits of your labor, hard work. What else? Yeah, and then we have generally like the 10 would be like that completion, that like you did everything you needed to do, you earned this, or this balance between enjoying what you've earned and maintaining self-control, prosperity, and that is like a lot of how Achilles is depicted, almost that like things just come easily to him. And then sort of like the final part of the storyline is that he kind of like fulfills this destiny, because his mother knows, I think there's like a prophecy basically of like that he will die, like at a young age, at a relatively young age. And so she's always trying to prevent that from happening. But then by doing so, of course, like inevitably it comes true. Okay. And the other card that I saw was, there's a deck called the Literary Tarot. So again, this is like depicting, so it actually shows the lovers as Achilles and Patroclus from in this deck as the lovers card. So I liked that as well, because again, like their storylines are very entwined in this way, and it's like they can't untangle them kind of no matter what happens, and that is sort of like the fate of the prophecy there. So that was on, I found the image on Charmingly Antiquated on Tumblr. So I'll link that as well if you want to see the image there, or look up that deck. It's the Literary Tarot, and we're looking at the Lover's card. They actually have in this tarot deck, they have like different lovers cards. So this is one of them. And there's another one that has Hades and Persephone, which is interesting. But yeah, it depicts them as sort of kissing, and their hands are being held, and they've taken off their sort of like warrior helmets, and they are embracing, and there's like a traditional, a Greek feast in front of them with figs and grapes and all these different things there. All right. So what else? So let's get into, let's pull a card and see what message Achilles has for us today. I think I'm going to pull from the Norse Goddess Rune Oracle deck. This is by Rebecca Joy Stark and illustrated by Sharon McLeod. It just feels like a nice, strong deck to, to speak about these characters from. All right, so what message does Achilles have for us? What do we need to know today? Is there anything that we're missing from our reading of this? Okay, let's see here. I pulled Sun, which is number 24, Algis Merkstav, which is about boundaries, defense, and denial. And I did pull it in reverse. This deck doesn't lend super well to reversals, but I'll try to sort of interpret what I think the reversal part means. She says, I am Sun, goddess of the entry. I keep the home safe, holding strong. I stand sentry. I refuse entry to those who are not true. May Algis Merkstav help to defend you. So Sin is the goddess of the entryway who holds the keys to the hall. Sin is the setter of trials to prove the mettle of those who wish to dispute or refute a judgment. And Sin is the defender of those within by locking the doors to those who do not hold a place in the hall, denying entry to those who wish to bring ill will. All right, so Sin is the sentry of Frigg's Hall Fensalir that holds the keys and judges the intentions of those who seek to grant access to the warmth and hospitality within the goddess's home. She carefully judges those who approach, ensuring that their intentions are pure before allowing them to step over the threshold. In disputes, she sets trials for those in a disagreement to test their worthiness. And she is the goddess of firm boundaries, refusing to give in to the demands of others if they go against her will. So if we think about the divinatory meaning for this card, so Algis Merkstav is the rune of refusal. It is a symbolic of protecting yourself by using the power of your voice, making your intentions clear, and learning the art of saying no. It signifies denial, denying access to those who wish to bring ill will or disharmony to your life. It reminds you that now is the time to speak up, defend yourself with assertiveness, and protect your own well-being. Stand in your power as you are vastly more powerful than you realize. Set firm boundaries, be clear in your expectations of others, and refuse those who seek to cross the boundaries that you have established. You hold the keys to your door, the keys to your heart, and the keys to your soul. Allow your words and actions to defend your dignity. That very much reminds me of Achilles, where Algis is the rune of protecting all that you hold dear. Algis Merkstav is denying access to things that don't fill your cup. It is protection through refusal, refusing to allow negativity to impact your life any further. Be clear with what you will allow and what you will not. Protect yourself and your loved ones from harm, for now is the time to call upon your ancestors and guides for divine intervention and support. Stand up for those who are defenseless. Stand sentry at their hall until they regain their strength and capacity to refuse others from bringing harm. Denounce the actions of those who bring others down. Stand firm and strong in your conviction to tear down those who wish to suppress and oppress your kin. Seek divine protection. Allow the elk to provide spiritual guidance and defense as you call in the power of those who shelter and keep you safe. And in the image, she is wearing like elk antlers there, so it's sort of that guidance. And she actually has like the scales, kind of like the scales of justice in one hand and then a key in the other for the door. So this is interesting because I just did the New Moon Collective Tarot reading, which was right, we are on the tail end of Libra season and moving into Scorpio. And Libra as depiction is the scales of justice as well, and all about finding balance. So, right, this card and Achilles are telling us, right, like know what's for you, know what isn't, and keep your own boundaries. Like, right, we protect ourselves through refusal and refusing to allow negativity to impact your life any further. Be clear with what you allow and what you will not. Protect yourself and your loved ones from harm, and call upon your ancestors for divine intervention and support. And also that we need to stand up for those that are defenseless. And again, I see Achilles as doing this through Patroclus, because Patroclus was not as like highly ranked as Achilles was, but Achilles was always like welcoming him into his like classes or his like warrior meetings, or because Achilles was again very like destined to be this like epic warrior, and Patroclus was kind of like just like a more normal upbringing. But Achilles was always like seeing him on an equal level and bringing him into these spaces and like meetings that he would not have been in otherwise. So also Achilles, right, using his own power and privilege to bring others up with him. All right, so I think that is the message for today. Thanks for that, Achilles. All right, so if you'd like to join me on the journey of using the tarot for transformation, there's a link in the show notes to indicate your interest, and I'll send you more info. We'll be working together. I'll have 12 months of calls and journaling to discover what happens when we want to transform our lives through the tarot. Links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. So you can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, and more. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.